2 years in a row, the Michigan Wolverines came out on top. What's good, everybody? Hope you're having a super blessed day. And today we're going to be breaking down what did we learn from last night's I don't want to call it shocking, but I don't think anybody expected Michigan to win this decisively over Ohio State at Ohio State's house. Be sure to leave this video a like and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss when we break down each conference's championship game. Getting straight into it, I think that the number one thing that was most prevalent in this game was the entire game Ohio State was playing to not lose and Michigan was playing to win. What it seriously felt like was, Ohio State had their nice opening drive. They scored on their first offensive drive. Things were going good. But as soon as they realized that Michigan wasn't just going to bend over and die for them, they started getting a little bit scared. And as soon as Michigan took the lead, Ohio State just looked in straight fear mode. Because in all honesty, the first half of this game, Ohio State could have seriously ran away with it. Ohio State's defense was doing a phenomenal job of just completely stifling Michigan's, especially their running game, but they were making it impossible for JJ McCarthy just to get comfortable. However, the biggest thing that Ohio State was not able to stop was they were not able to stop Michigan on 3rd and long. Ohio State could not stop Michigan on the 3rd and longs. I mean, Michigan's first touchdown was a huge, just complete missed tackle by Ohio State to Cornelius Johnson, where he took that, it was like a little 10-yard out, and he ended up taking that to the crib. Ohio State did a phenomenal job of stopping Michigan's run game. Obviously, with Blake Corum going out pretty much like in their first offensive drive, that just immediately shook up Michigan. And for Ohio State's defense to consistently be putting Michigan in tough 3-and-out spots, but then just to give up big chunk plays on those third downs, it just simply wasn't going to be enough. And it was pretty much just waiting until the defense started to crack. And when the defense cracked, it cracked. Ohio State was pretty much begging JJ McCarthy, you are going to have to be the one to beat us with your arm. Ohio State was playing man the entire game, pretty much just saying, we have better athletes than you. We trust that our defensive linemen are going to be able to get home and be able to get pressure on the quarterback. And from there, he's a young guy. He's a young guy. He's not going to be able to handle the pressure of being in the big house. No, being in the shoe. He did a phenomenal job. JJ McCarthy, this was his coming out game. He proved why he was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. He proved why he had all this just attention and admiration at Michigan. JJ McCarthy played the best game of his college career when it mattered the most. JJ McCarthy was 12 of 24 for 263 yards, averaging 11 yards a pass and 3 touchdowns, but he also had 6 carries for 27 yards and a touchdown. Honestly, it felt like he had more rushing yards than that because it just seemed like Ohio State could not get home. He was doing a great job of scrambling where he needed to, evading the pressure, throwing the ball away when he could, but more so when he was rolling out of the pocket, he was finding a guy wide open downfield. I mean, over 140 of his passing yards came on 3 touchdown throws. And then as soon as Michigan took the lead early in the 3rd quarter, Ohio State just looked defeated. As soon as Michigan came out and was the first person to score, they were the only team to score in the 3rd quarter. Ohio State just looked defeated. They looked like they were scared of losing. They looked like they didn't want to let anybody down. They were playing very conservatively and very, very passively. They weren't playing traditional Ohio State football. I don't know if that was because Ryan Day didn't want to lose this game at home. I mean, you can understand somewhat losing to Michigan. Obviously, in this rivalry, you don't want to lose ever, but you can make a justification for losing at Michigan's home last year, but you don't want to lose back-to-back years, and then the second year you're losing at home. So it just looked like Ryan Day was not comfortable making the play calls when the defense was not able to stop Michigan's passing game. And then especially once Michigan's running game started to crack open late in the 3rd and obviously the whole 4th quarter, it was just a wrap for Ohio State at that point. But now that we've done a little bit more of an overall breakdown of the game, now I want to focus more on each side of the ball. And I first want to start off with Ohio State because this was Ohio State's game to win, and they simply let Michigan win this game, and Ohio State beat themselves. One of the commentators said it best. Ohio State was going up against 2 opponents yesterday. They were going up against Michigan and themselves. I mean, you would expect the team that's at home to not have as many penalties as the away team, especially in a rivalry game, and especially when you put over 100,000 30,000 people in that stadium, you would expect Michigan to be having multiple false start penalties. It can get a little chippy in this game. You were expecting Michigan to be the team to lose their cool, but no, it was Ohio State. Ohio State had 9 penalties for 91 yards. That is not going to get it done, especially in a rivalry game of this magnitude. And speaking of emotions of this game, Ohio State was the team that was getting the unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, the unnecessary roughness penalties. That was going on Ohio State. They were showing their frustration. Michigan was able to keep their cool for the entire game. But I first think that the number one thing that we have to focus on with Ohio State was the defensive game plan for this game. There was no adjustments made, and it just showed. So Michigan was able to pick up on it so quickly. Ohio State was going to play man, and they were going to die. They were going to live and die by playing man on the defensive side of the ball. Michigan was able to so effectively just, first off, when you're playing man and you have a quarterback who is as mobile as JJ McCarthy, you're asking a lot of your secondary to have to cover elite wide receivers for 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds downfield. Somebody is going to get open. That's why there were so many big shot plays, because JJ McCarthy was able to. Also, big credit to Michigan's O-line for how talented Ohio State's defensive line is. Don't get me wrong, they got home a couple of times, but for the most part, Michigan did a good job of stopping Ohio State's pressure. I mean, Ohio State had 5 tackles for a loss, 1 sack, 5 passes deflected, and 2 quarterback hurries. Overall, that's a solid game plan, but all the other times where they weren't doing that, Michigan was doing a phenomenal job of protecting JJ McCarthy, and JJ McCarthy, like you should have seen it after the first couple of throws. JJ McCarthy was there to play. He was spinning the ball. He was getting the ball to his playmakers early and often. When you have mobile quarterbacks, but especially when you have young mobile quarterbacks, I believe that the best philosophy that you can do on defense is zone coverage. Man coverage is simply just too easy to read as a young quarterback. Okay, where are my mismatches here? Okay, I got my 6'3" receiver over here going up against a 5'10" corner. Okay, let me just throw it back shoulder. It's a lot easier to dissect than when all of a sudden a defensive lineman that you thought was about to blitz you goes and drops into a third coverage. That safety comes screaming off the edge out of nowhere. And one of the linebackers that was backside, he bailed out into coverage as well. You're just simply too confused to even be able to read what's in front of you. That's why if you look at Bill Belichick, and he doesn't ever really play man when he goes up against young quarterbacks, he's always playing some ridiculously complex form of zone. That's the defensive scheme that I think that Ohio State should have went with, rather than pretty much just saying, okay, if you beat us with your arm, you're going to beat us. No, like, you have to make adjustments. On top of that, even though Ohio State did have 2 100-yard receivers, the first of which being Emeka Egbuka, who had 9 receptions for 125 yards and a touchdown, and of course Marvin Harrison Jr., who had 7 catches for 120 yards and a touchdown. Obviously, the passing game was not an issue for Ohio State, but not having Jackson Smith-Njigba, it's just such a blow to this offense, while also not having Mayan Williams, and also they had Mayan Williams, but not having Trevion Henderson. Mayan Williams was not able to be utilized as effectively because he is still recovering from an injury. However, not having Trevion Henderson and not having Jackson Smith-Njigba, obviously Ohio State has a ridiculous just medley of talent on the offensive side of the ball. But Jackson Smith-Njigba does something just different than all the other wide receivers. He creates space for his other receivers. He forces defenses to have to account for them. Marvin Harrison Jr. does a good job of that too, but it's not the same level as a Jackson Smith-Njigba. Not having that ability to space the field and be able to, just, okay, like you're pretty much going to have to always at least stack a safety over Jackson Smith-Njigba. It just causes a little bit less timing with the offense, but more so, the other receivers that Ohio State has are just simply, they need another year to develop. I mean, Julian Fleming was a 5-star recruit. He was a top 5 player in his class. Had a couple of drops. G. Scott Jr., 4-star wide receiver. He's now converted to tight end. He ended up getting a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, headbutting somebody off of the field, and he got pulled for the game. Ohio State just needed that third guy to really be able to spread the ball. Normally, a Cade Stover would have come in the clutch right there. They were doing a great job of covering Cade Stover. Cade Stover had a chance to make a couple of nice plays, but the defense was just right there. Ohio State just needed a couple of those pieces, and when they needed the backup guys to start stepping up, It was just a drop pass for a first down, you know, just a drop pass to stall a play, you know, missing an assignment, not running the right route. It just slowed down Ohio State's offense too much. And then it didn't help when Ryan Day was not willing to take those shots. At the end of the day, that was the second biggest killer. After Ohio State's defense just sticking to man, Ohio State not being aggressive on the offensive side of the ball. This is a rivalry game. It doesn't matter if you're at home, away, or at a neutral site. You need to be playing to win the game. When you're in advantageous positions, it is a 4-down game. You need to be, hey, you know what? We're setting up to try and score on each and every single time that we touch the ball on offense. Not, you know, if we move the ball a little bit, that's cool, but, you know, we're just trying to just keep, just as long as we're kicking field goals and just staying a little bit ahead, we'll be fine. No, Michigan was playing to win, and you cannot play to not lose as Ohio State, and settling for field goals is simply not going to get it done. In all honesty, to wrap up Ohio State's section of this video, it looked like this stage was just a little bit too big for Ohio State, which is absolutely wild to even say, because Ohio State's used to being in the college football playoffs. They're used to being a top 5 team each and every single week. This stage just looked too big for them. They looked like they were afraid to lose this game. And you know what? Sometimes your fears come true. But now switching it over to Michigan. Michigan did a phenomenal job of not just riding the hype of last year and coming in and being like, you know what? We're here and we're here to take this dub in their house. JJ McCarthy and Cornelius Johnson in the first 3-ish quarters of this game pretty much took the game completely into their hands and said, you know what, we're going to be the ones to come out with this dub. JJ McCarthy, like I said earlier in the video, this was his coming out game. He did a phenomenal job of protecting the football, not putting the ball in harm's way, not fumbling the ball, you know, making the right reach, checking it down when he needs to, and then not being afraid to tuck the ball and run. He did a phenomenal job of, he is going to need to learn how to slide, because there was one play where he tried to slide and he ended up just getting kind of picked up and dropped into the ground. But overall, he was fighting for the extra yards. You know, he was willing to break a tackle. He was willing to drop the shoulder pads a little bit. JJ McCarthy played an absolutely perfect game, and it showed because Michigan came out with the dub. And while Michigan did a phenomenal job of just, you know, making the plays where they needed to, Michigan just lived and died by the big play. Like I said earlier in the video, they were being put to the test early on offense. It was just like literally the first 5 offensive drives that Michigan had could have all been 3 and outs if Ohio State was able to just not let a big play happen on 3rd down. There was so many 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 12s, 3rd and 10s where Michigan hadn't moved the ball an inch, and then all of a sudden a 50-yard touchdown just breaks out of nowhere because a man was out of position or Cornelius Johnson was running a beautiful route. That post that he ran to the middle of the field was absolutely money. The little inside release to the acting like he was about to hit that out and then cut right back to the post. Chef's kiss out there. But Michigan was just living and dying by the big play. All of their touchdowns were big plays. All 3 of their passing touchdowns were over 45 yards. And then obviously the 2 rushing touchdowns at the end of the game by Donovan Edwards, just absolutely just breakaway. I believe both of them are over 60 yards. Like just absolutely just big plays, miscues by Ohio State. Michigan definitely won this game. They made the proper adjustments that they needed to. They kept the energy high. They were in a position to win the game constantly. But you cannot discredit the fact that Ohio State did not play their best game. And it wasn't because Michigan was just doing something that they weren't able to stop. Like I said, Michigan was playing Michigan, or Ohio State was playing Michigan and against themselves. So don't get me wrong. I think that Michigan is one of the best teams in college football. I think that they have Georgia just looks like absolute world beaters. I don't really know what team is going to beat Georgia. It's definitely not going to beat TCU. Hopefully USC can get into the top 4, and maybe that offense can just kind of hope to out-sprint Georgia's defense, which I don't normally, when the top tier defense goes against the top tier offense, normally the defense ends up winning. We'll see. But I would say between all the teams that could potentially be in the college football playoffs, Michigan, Alabama, and USC are the only teams that I could see beating Georgia. And those are the teams I want to see in the college football playoffs. But Michigan, great job. Coach Harbaugh, back-to-back dubs over Ohio State. Great job. Michigan is looking to be on the rise. So that is what we learned from yesterday's Michigan versus Ohio State game. Michigan came out there to win that game. They kept their energy high, and they said, you know what? We're going to be the new kings of this rivalry. And Ohio State looked scared. They looked scared to lose. They looked scared to be in their home stadium. It was just it was a rough game for all my Ohio State fans. I'm sorry for all y'all because I'm an honorary Ohio State fan. It was a tough game to watch because there was so many opportunities for Ohio State to win this game, and they simply just let it all slip away because of just a consistent miscue. It seemed like every single time on the offense or defensive side of the ball, if it wasn't a 3-and-out or a successful touchdown drive, they were either throwing a pick, getting 3-and-out of themselves on offense, or they were letting up a 40-50 yard touchdown to Michigan. It was just such a black or white game. Ohio State was either playing like world beaters or looking like YMCA's Pop Warner team. So hey, but that is what we learned from yesterday's Michigan versus Ohio State game. I want to hear from y'all, so comment down below what were your guys' thoughts on the game. Be sure to leave this video a like and comment down below also what games do you guys want to see me cover as well. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be dropping a USC versus Notre Dame. That was a great game. USC always comes out with the dub. USC versus Notre Dame game tomorrow. I'm going to do a breakdown on that. And obviously we got the conference championship games coming up this upcoming week, so I'm going to be looking forward to that. And with all that being said, I love and appreciate all y'all. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Ciao.